This is my sanctuary. I use this sanctuary to help me practice a relaxation response. I had to get teaching from some of the best in the world on how to do that, but for the last 5 to 6 years I've been able to take this sanctuary and bring it with me to work or on vacation or on one of my hikes, and it makes it so it's portable. When I was growing up, I was bullied. I was bullied from about the age of 12 years on up. I think that's about the time when some kids realize that you're different. And I was the only Asian in a lot of my schools that I went to. So, being an easy target, I was usually bullied. In fact, unfortunately, with a lot of the schools I remember my dad put me in, there was always an event. I remember a school in Minnesota, school in New Jersey, school in a couple different places, and one of the biggest memories I have from the schools is the bully that I ran into. The good thing was I usually would have a savior, a bigger guy. There's always a bigger fish in the lake, so I'd always have a bigger guy that would save me or say, that guy's cool. So the problem now, I mean, back then you'd usually have a parent say, just ignore them, they're idiots. You're better than they are. In fact, I think some parents will do that now. The problem is times have changed, and even my young parents who are pretty savvy with their computers and the internet, it's still evolving. It's like a moving target. Social media will always evolve. So we're having social media and kids introduced at a younger and younger age. So you have to be careful because there is no more sanctuary. Back when I was growing up, I could leave school, get on the bus, get in my parents' car, close the door, roll up the window, and then just say, thank God I'm away from that place or that bully. So I'd have my sanctuary then, at home or in my neighborhood. With the internet and social media, especially the way kids are plugged into social media and how it's part of their generation, there is no sanctuary. Even away from school, you can have cyberbullying 24/7. School or no school, summer or no summer. So you have to recognize that. I do not agree with using any kind of screen after dinner or when you're trying to sleep. And those of you who have sleeping disorders, you'll know I always tell you, shut down the screen, no screens after dinner, read a book. But I realize that some people need to have that screen or need to catch up. That's the theory, I guess. So if my parents and my 40 to 50-year-olds or 60 to 70-year-olds are dependent on the screen, you can imagine what the young kids are expecting to do when they shut down at night. It's going to be constantly. I have people who leave their phone next to their pillow and wake up in the middle of the night to answer a text or to see how many likes they got or how many views they got. And it's just so disruptive. But again, the bottom line is that you usually don't have a sanctuary, don't have any time off, there's no respite. And your parents should realize that. So there's a way that social media can be used for positive. There's also ways that social media can be used as a negative. And you've heard of the suicides that have occurred just from cyberbullying. There's something called a relational aggression, and that's when you get individualized or pushed out of the group. And in studies, there are parts of the brain that light up when you become marginalized, when you become secluded. And those same parts of the brain also get lit up when you go through physical pain. We are hardwired as humans to be part of a group. Survivability, Darwinism, survivability of the human species is based on being in a group. Better protection, better divvying up of chores, more survivability, longevity, sustainability. So when you are put out of a group or marginalized, even if it's on the internet, it's kind of disheartening. It's kind of worrisome, and it can be, as I mentioned, it can be just as painful in the brain as being physically abused or physically hurt. And that's why some people get to that point where they can't disconnect and they go into a spiral downward to eventual committing suicide. So it's very important as my parents to be aware. My younger parents, you might think that you're savvy, but the internet is constantly changing, social media is constantly changing, so you have this moving target that you have to be aware of. You really have to be on your guard, not overly protective, but you have to be aware of what your kids are doing. It's kind of like supervising without snoopervising. Because if you go too aggressive, then you'll have animosity between you and your child. But either way, you really have to be aware of what goes on the internet. If you want to stay healthy, you have to disconnect every once in a while. And our younger generations might not know that. Maybe after about a week of being punished, they might feel, when you take away all privileges and all internet, they might start to feel, hey, this is kind of cool, be outside, kind of just to chill. Go to the beach without any data and see how you feel. I think that once you introduce the person to that, or even say cognitive behavioral therapy, relaxation therapy, nature therapy, anything, you'll start to reap the benefits, because the part of the brain that gives you happiness will turn on again. The part of the brain that gives you happiness when you're on the internet or when you get a bunch of likes, that's very short-lived, and it does stimulate enjoyment, but it always, it's like the hedonic treadmill. You always have to have more, and you're never satisfied. So as parents, as patients, I would always say, try to unplug and try to forget the internet for a short time, 15 minutes twice a day. As parents, I'd always say, know where your kids are surfing, know which social medias they're in. Maybe talk to your schools where your kids belong to have some form of anonymous tips that can be made in case it gets to a situation where somebody threatens, there's cyberbullying, there's retaliation. When the victim becomes the aggressor, that's not good either. Again, going back to my day, my father put me into martial arts, and it wasn't to learn martial arts to kick somebody's ass, which I probably could do anyway, but it was to learn martial arts to give self-confidence, to give a sense of who I am, empower me to say, screw that. Then maybe I could ignore it without feeling contempt for myself. My motto with trying to get my patients to live to 90 with as little medicines and surgeries as possible, and to feel and be as happy as you are when you're 20, it involves the family unit. So you can get to that point and hopefully stay at that point with some healthy practice, but you got to take the kids with you, and you got to look out for your kids too. So when I empower my patients to be healthier individuals, maybe medicine-free, it's then time to reciprocate and give that same empowerment to your kids.